Welcome to Verified RX, your prescription for success. Brought to you by the Vizient Center for Pharmacy Practice Excellence.
A recent survey shows that 73 to 79% of respondents somewhat or strongly agree that there's a severe shortage of candidates for pharmacy leadership positions. It also shows that succession planning and internal development programs are lacking within most institutions. Today, Dr. Bonnie Levin and Dr. Cedric Terrell join me to discuss the pharmacy leadership pipeline and how to develop future leaders. I'm Carolyn Liptak, Pharmacy Executive Director in Vizient Center for Pharmacy Practice Excellence, and your host. Bonnie, Cedric, welcome to the podcast, and thanks so much for joining me.
Great to be here. Hey, Cedric.
Oh, it's great to see you, Carolyn. Hi, Bonnie.
We've been discussing a potential pharmacy leadership pipeline challenge for years. Can you share with us what you're seeing today?
Well, Bonnie, I always default to you first.
Oh, you're so sweet. I am seeing challenges in the pipeline. There seem to be less pharmacists in the pool and less willing to step up for leadership. It's hard to know whether it's related to a reduction in health system administration leadership residencies, whether there are less directors out there. But yes, I'm seeing challenges. What about you, Cedric?
The challenge is, I probably will put them in three categories: retiring, our pharmacy pipeline of executive pharmacy leaders, we're finding them stepping into a different phase of their career. The challenge is the complexity in the landscape of healthcare is there as well. So that's happening at the same time as we have an exodus of our pharmacy leadership. The third piece is the expectations. For the longest period of time, we've talked about having a seat at the table. And now what we're finding is pharmacies created a table that other people want to sit at, and expectations have changed around pharmacy leadership. Are we preparing our pharmacy leaders or our existing pharmacy leaders? Are they prepared to step into the roles to lead healthcare? The challenges are real, and because of the complexity and expectations that we all have of healthcare delivery.
That's a great way for us to start out. What would you say is different now about pharmacy leadership compared to previous years? What has changed?
It's a very different landscape than it was even 5 years ago. A couple of reasons. Healthcare systems are consolidating with all the mergers and acquisitions. So the job is bigger. There's more hospitals, there's more sites of care, types of pharmacies to lead. The role now, it's not a director, it's an executive. We really need to change the expectations of our leaders and make sure that their training and education matches what the needs are.
Spot on, Bonnie. I would say the term of pharmacy business executive. In the past, we really doubled down on clinical. You still have to have that clinical acumen or expertise, understand the operations of pharmacy. We influence the organization. So because of that, the change is dynamic. I always used to joke that pharmacy is like an octopus. We have tentacles in all aspects of the healthcare system. But our goal was always, if we're working at our best, things never happen. You're avoiding adverse events and everything else. But now everything we touch, you can see in real time because of the way therapies are happening now, and they're driven by medicine.
There's a quote out there and no one's willing to own it, but CEOs are saying, we're not running a hospital system with a pharmacy. We're running a pharmacy that owns hospitals.
I love that.
We say that pharmacy leaders don't just lead pharmacies, they lead health systems or health plans or other complex organizations. When thinking about developing future pharmacy leaders in the health system setting, what skills and credentials are most important today?
I used to think of pharmacy as a three-legged stool: clinical, operational, and technical. I've recently added a fourth one, and that's financial, which is somewhat slotted under operational, but we are expected to be financial leaders. We grew up, Terrell, I'm a little older than you, but we grew up in a world where we really cared about drug expenses, and that was our big KPI. Now it's about revenue, it's expanding sites of care. Some of us are involved in managed care organizations, PBMs. It's so much broader than what it used to be. So we need to learn those skills.
Operational margin is the way to surmise that. But our leaders, the ones that truly thrive, they have that full skill set. And I think what Bonnie called out falls under that business acumen: financial, operational, strategic, understanding the data to get insights, understand the managed care environment, the payer environment. Those leaders will thrive, obviously, today and in the future for sure.
I agree. Pharmacy financial stewardship is a huge part of pharmacy leadership today. Bonnie, where do you think informal leaders fit in?
Identifying an informal leader is one of our most important tasks as leaders because that's our future. And an informal leader to me is someone who raises their hand and offers to help, who is able to gain consensus from their group and can sort of look outside of what they do to say, here's a solution that works. So someone that comes to the discussion with a solution, not a problem. And those are the folks that we need to grow and mentor.
Spot on, Bonnie. Leadership is a behavior. It's not a position. I definitely look for the influential team members that are ready to jump in and solve problems, no matter what size they are. They're ready to raise their hand because they understand the purpose behind it. They understand the true purpose of the role that pharmacy is playing in the healthcare delivery and the end result of everything that we do. When they're connected to that, I find that regardless if it's a big L or a little L, the outcome is phenomenal.
It is on us as senior leaders to make sure that we expose the little L leaders across disciplines and across hospitals, because people tend to exist in their own little world. And if they're just in one hospital, that may be all they see in the pharmacy. Our onus is to expose them more broadly to other departments, other hospitals within the health system.
Absolutely. When we talk about these skills and credentials, and even Cedric, you mentioned purpose, do you feel that the skills and credentials that are needed are lagging?
The exposure is lagging in a lot of ways. Through pharmacy training, you have the critical thinking, you definitely understand the knowledge base and the clinical expertise. But then when you step into a world where it is truly around the operations of a pharmacy and the intersection between that clinical expertise and operations, that's where we fumble a little bit. And that's why the residency program was so important. Mentorship on how to navigate that water is so crucial. That's probably a place where there's some opportunity.
I also think financial training. You come out of pharmacy school and you want to be a clinical pharmacist, and understanding how the business of pharmacy sits on top of the clinical enterprise is critical. Students aren't really taught that. I am seeing more pharmacy schools having a joint masters of something, healthcare, finance, whatever. And so that's really critical, but exposure to the real life financials of a health system is critical to grow these folks. To Cedric's point, we really need to mentor our little L's.
Inserting them in budgeting process, really understanding what a P&L is, in some of these organizations, the GL and where things sit on the GL when you're placing for your budget. Those little small exercises early on in a pharmacist's career, you're setting them up for when opportunities present themselves. You could be a little mini project right now, but as future projects or future opportunities present themselves, they're familiar enough to be able to step into those roles and not intimidated by the daunting task.
Cedric, you mentioned residency programs. Let's talk about residency programs versus experience. Does a residency provide the same value? And what does that equation look like?
It's an ongoing discussion that we as pharmacy leaders are having for sure. When you come out of pharmacy school, if you're going to be in the healthcare delivery space, a residency is needed for our graduate pharmacists now. But I don't think it stops there. That is giving you the intro into how pharmacy is practicing today. The residency exposes you to that, but you still have to layer on top of that experiences. And the residency programs, they are based on modules that you need to complete in order to finish your residency program. What I feel is warranted and needed is a deeper dive into the business acumen of healthcare and hospital systems. Even if you're doing a more clinically focused residency program, you still need to understand the impact of the services you're providing. And that's missing in a lot of our residency programs today.
You're right on, Cedric. We need to assure that in our residencies, we're giving the resident exposure across disciplines, across the system, not just up on the floor making rounds, which of course is clinically important because having that fundamental layer of clinical knowledge and expertise drives all of us. We have to start with that. But beyond there, you have to know how it slots in with everything else going on in the health system. Pharmacists come out of school and residency thinking that pharmacy is kind of the center of the healthcare universe. We're a part of it. We're certainly more and more critical, but they need to understand where they fit in the larger picture. And again, it's our role to show the young pharmacists that.
That professional maturity comes with just experience over a period of time of knowing what role you're playing in the hospital and health system to really service, obviously, the patient and your other stakeholders that you're partnering with.
At the end of the day, finance always matters. With pharmacy enterprise being more business focused than ever before, how does an existing clinically trained leader go from a clinical focus into leadership?
I want to start with another quote because this one, it has been important to me most of my career. And it's, I think Eleanor Roosevelt said this, but do one thing every day that scares you.
Nice.
I was a director of pharmacy and my COO said, the administrative director of behavioral health just left. I want you to take that on. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this. I know the medications, but I said yes. And it was one of the best experiences I ever had because it gave me an exposure across disciplines and across operational and financial expertise. It's taking on things that you don't think you can do and then muddling through them as you learn.
My mantra is always, why not? Especially if it's something that I haven't been exposed to. But the expertise for that clinical leader looking to transition to a CPO needs to be thinking about managing budgets. Can they lead multidisciplinary teams? And they've got examples of that, even if you're doing multidisciplinary rounds. But how do you connect the dots between that? Your strategic planning. Have you participated in any planning work with the organization in a meaningful, impactful way? As pharmacy leaders, we have the PNT, or Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee, but then how do we go outside of that and transcend to our executive leadership? Have you had any opportunities to present in an executive environment with your executive leadership team? So you have that exposure and translate that pharmacy experience, obviously, into enterprise value. So being able to communicate, I do these things, and because I do these things, it generates this net value for the organization, and being able to surmise that in a way that people can relate to. It can be translatable to the audience that you're talking to. For clinical leaders, as you move into a CPO role, that's invaluable.
So it's important for them to look for those opportunities, not just wait for them to happen.
Oh, absolutely.
The typical pharmacy director runs a hospital pharmacy. So we need to make sure that our future leaders are exposed to retail operations, ambulatory care, specialty pharmacy, pop health, payer strategy. There's so many pieces that Cedric and I are now touching as CPOs that we wouldn't have imagined 5 or 6 years ago, but we need to now provide that exposure to the leadership that's coming up.
Absolutely. And candidly, Carolyn, to your point, it's not like payer strategy came to talk with me around, hey, we're doing this contract. I had to go out and seek that. When's our window for renegotiating X contracts in our managed care environment? What contracts do we have? What's our threshold of government versus commercial payers? All of those conversations, you go out seeking those because they have an impact on your business across the care continuum. Because of that, you have to be the one that's sparking a lot of those conversations. At one time, we were seeking a seat at the table. Now we're creating that table, and who are the stakeholders that need to be at that table to help us run our pharmacy enterprise?
Bonnie, I really loved your quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. Along those same lines, what's something a former mentor told you that really changed your career? And then what advice would you give an emerging new leader?
It was just say yes to opportunities that stretch you. If there's something out there that you've never done before, but you think I need to learn from, raise your hand and say, can I do this? In our world, that's now more and more actually beyond pharmacy. So we have several people on our team that are pharmacy leaders, but they also have imaging and or lab and or some other departments. That is really the future of pharmacy leadership. It's taking on roles where you can generically apply your experience to a broader plate of issues.
One of my mentors, they told me, don't limit yourself to the role you have today. Prepare yourself to the role you may step in the next 3 to 5 years. The linchpin was that is to keep a curious mindset and stay inquisitive and continue to explore, test your boundaries and explore and be curious around why those boundaries even exist in the first place. Because as a patient seeking healthcare, there are no boundaries. You want whatever ailment you have to be resolved. So there shouldn't be boundaries in a way that you deliver that care as well. And so finding that continuous thread that goes through all of our silos and the different departments that make up a health system, going back to my analogy, octopus, tentacles, we cover all those domains. So we should have a clear understanding of the impact that we have on those domains and how they have an impact on our pharmacy service.
One thing that always challenges me is pharmacists by training tend to be very big rule followers. We're kind of black and white. And in this world of leadership, we are managing in uncertainty. We are making decisions always with incomplete information. And just pharmacists by nature, that's uncomfortable. So we have to get over that so we can move forward and execute on our strategies.
Being comfortable with the uncomfortable.
All great advice. Tell us what gives you optimism about the future of pharmacy leadership.
I see so many opportunities for us. I'm very much into networking and I learn from my peers, including Cedric, all those folks out there. There's always somebody out there in the CPO world who's doing something new and edgy and interesting. And as soon as I learn that, I want to grab it and say, can we do that? You have to be persistent because some of the initiatives we're doing now took a long time to bring to fruition. Specialty pharmacy, we started talking about 4 or 5 years before we actually went live with it. Sometimes topics need to percolate and mature before you can do them, but you have to be persistent.
I'm very optimistic. The leaders that are stepping up today, they're innovative, they're adaptable. Look at the technology, the speed to value equation has totally shifted. And I really love the quote that you gave, Bonnie, around we're now running health systems that support a pharmacy enterprise. The leaders today and our future leaders, it brings a smile to my face. But the most important part in all of this is the relationships. Me and Bonnie have had a long-standing relationship. Anytime we get a chance, we're checking in with each other to figure out what can we do different. Here's what I'm experiencing. Are you experiencing the same thing? Because the challenges aren't necessarily different. How we may go about them may be a little bit different, but the challenges are pretty much the same. It was great to have a relationship and network on a routine basis with my colleagues.
This has been great. Thank you, Bonnie and Cedric, for your insight and expertise as current pharmacy leaders and for helping us understand the complexities of the pharmacy leadership pipeline. It's been great chatting with you. Subscribe today. Like us. Send us your comments. We'd love to hear from you. Verified Rx is a prescription for success and is brought to you by the Vizient Center for Pharmacy Practice Excellence. Thanks for listening.